Listen, here's the truth. If it's not in your zone of genius, automation is mandatory. You didn't start your podcast to spend hours editing clips. You started it to create, connect, and grow your audience. But here's the problem. Every other platform works with video podcasts, and manual editing eats up your most valuable asset, your time. That's where Opus Clip changes everything. Upload your video, and Opus Clip will automatically find the golden nugget moments, auto clip and caption the best parts, perfect for TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. 1 hour-long episode becomes 10, 20, even 30 viral-ready clips in minutes. The tool even predicts each clip's viral potential, so you know exactly what to post. No more tedious editing. No more wasted hours. Just you staying in your zone of genius, creating content that matters. Head to podnationopus.com for your free trial and get back to doing what you do best. Stop editing and start creating now. This is an Undiscovered Legacy production and proud member of PodNation Media Network. Welcome to Business Conversations with Pi and Piet 2.0, where the advice is real, but the voices are AI. I'm Scoob, and we're harnessing cutting-edge artificial intelligence to tackle real-world business challenges and deliver actionable strategies you can implement right now. Joining us is our newest AI voice, Piet, sharp, insightful, and ready to challenge conventional wisdom. The questions are real, the data is vast, and the insights game-changing. So buckle up, Scoo believers. It's time to get across the start line. Let's dive in.
Today, we are opening up a stack of reports that, well, they really challenge what is arguably one of the gloomiest narratives in economics. We are looking at aging.
We are. And you're right, that narrative is usually pretty grim, isn't it? It's always framed as a burden, a tsunami, or a decline. You hear about pension crises, healthcare systems just collapsing. But the data we're looking at today from the IMF, the World Economic Forum, Interreg Europe, it tells a radically different story.
Right.
We aren't looking at a crisis. We're looking at perhaps the single largest economic opportunity of this century.
You know, the scale of this really surprised me during the prep. I was looking at the numbers from silvereconomy.com. Right now, older adults, and that's the 60-plus crowd, they make up about 15% of the global population.
Okay, significant.
Yeah, but here's the kicker. That same group accounts for 27% of global consumer spending.
Wow. It's a massive disparity, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they're punching way above their weight class economically. They aren't a niche market anymore. They are the market. So our mission today is to figure out what that actually means.
Right.
We're not just talking about building more nursing homes. We're looking at entrepreneurship, innovation, and how businesses can really pivot to serve this demographic.
And just as importantly, how that demographic is reshaping the workforce itself. Because hitting 60 in 2026, it doesn't mean you're done. For a lot of people, it's just the start of a second act.
Exactly. So let's get into the sources. We have the IMF reports. We have analysis from the World Economic Forum, some really specific case studies on small businesses. Where do we even start to understand why this shift is happening now?
I think we have to start with the demographics, specifically what the IMF calls the demographic turning point.
Okay.
It's that exact moment when a country's working age population stops growing and starts to shrink. Now, advanced economies, think Japan, Germany, they crossed this line years ago. But the big news is that emerging markets are hitting it too.
And the projection is, what? By 2080, the median global age is over 40.
That's it. And historically, that would sound an alarm bell.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem. Fewer workers, more retirees. The math just doesn't seem to work. It sounds like a recipe for stagnation.
If you look at it through that traditional lens, yes, that's the old dependency ratio argument. But, and this is where the research gets really fascinating, that lens assumes that a 70-year-old today is the same as a 70-year-old in, say, 1990.
And the data says they're not.
Absolutely not.
This was the specific stat from the IMF research that I circled 3 times. I couldn't quite believe it. They found that a 70-year-old in 2022 had the same cognitive processing power as a 53-year-old did in the year 2000.
It's a staggering improvement in just one generation.
It really is. I mean, 70 is literally the new 53.
And that just fundamentally breaks the old economic models. We have to separate chronological age, the number of candles on the cake, from prospective age, which is basically how many healthy, productive years do you have left? The IMF analysis suggests that if we account for these healthy aging trends, the burden kind of disappears. In fact, labor earnings and productivity for older workers could jump by 30%.
So we're not just living longer, we are staying relevant longer. We're staying sharp.
Precisely. It creates what economists call a longevity dividend. The IMF estimates this could boost global GDP growth by 0.4 percentage points annually. Now, I know 0.4 sounds like a rounding error to most people.
It does sound small. I mean, I wouldn't get out of bed for a 0.4% raise.
But in macroeconomics, across the entire global GDP, that is huge. It's about 15% of the world's historic growth rate, a massive injection of value just by keeping people healthy and active.
So the shift is from thinking about an aging society, which just sounds depressing, to a longevity economy.
Exactly. It's an asset, not a liability. It's a dividend, not a tax.
Okay, so let's follow the money then. If we have this huge group of sharp, active 70-year-olds with all this spending power, what are they buying? Because I'm guessing it's not rocking chairs and hard candies moving the needle on GDP.
Far from it. The biggest trend we're seeing in the 2026 data is a move away from isolation and toward integration. For the last 50 years, the model was containment. You get old, you go to a specialized facility, usually on the edge of town.
Right, away from the action.
Exactly. That model is collapsing. The demand now is for systems that keep people connected to the wider world.
We have two really interesting and very different examples of this in the notes. On one side, you've got the villages in Florida.
Right. The villages is the ultimate market-driven model. It's huge, over 80,000 residents. But it's not a care home. It's an ecosystem built around golf carts, social clubs, restaurants. It's an entire economy built on active leisure.
It proves that if you build for that lifestyle, they will come.
And spend money. But then on the flip side, you have the case study from Chengdu in China. That's a policy-driven model.
Yeah, that's completely different.
China's facing a massive demographic shift, so they have a national mandate. All communities must be elderly-friendly by 2035. They're retrofitting a megacity. But whether it's Florida or China, the demand is the same. Integrated systems, not isolated facilities.
Speaking of systems, technology plays a huge role here. We talk about AI in almost every deep dive, but in this context, it feels much more visceral.
It is. The shift in age tech is from reactive to proactive. A few years ago, the cutting edge was a pendant with a button you pressed if you fell.
The classic, I've fallen and I can't get up button.
Exactly. Purely reactive. Now we have AI platforms that are predictive. They can analyze subtle changes in your gait, how you walk, to predict a fall weeks before it happens.
The example that stood out to me was ElliQ.
Yes, ElliQ is fascinating because it tackles that other epidemic of aging. Loneliness.
Yeah.
It's an AI companion robot. But unlike a smart speaker that just waits for a command, ElliQ is proactive. It initiates conversation. It reminds you of health goals. It tells jokes.
So it's less like a tool and more like a roommate who's really on top of your schedule.
That's the goal. It provides cognitive engagement, and that's crucial for any entrepreneur listening. People don't want to buy a device that reminds them they're frail. They want devices that help them stay independent.
Then there's the biological side of this. The sources mention the anti-aging market.
It's booming, projected to hit $140 billion this year. And you're right, the focus has shifted from cosmetic to therapeutic. It's about health span.
And this UK company, Syniska, caught my eye.
Right. They spun out of the University of Exeter, partnered with L'Oreal. They're working on xenotherapeutics. Basically, as we age, our bodies accumulate these zombie cells.
Zombie cells. That sounds unpleasant.
It is. They stop dividing, but they don't die. They just sit there secreting inflammatory chemicals that damage the cells around them. Syniska is developing tech to reprogram these cells, to basically wake them up and make them function like young cells again.
That's sci-fi stuff becoming reality. So let's look at the opportunity here. You have a market hungry for lifestyle, for tech, for health. This screams opportunity. But there's this barrier, right? The stereotype that startups are a young person's game.
And that is a dangerous misconception for any business in 2026. The myth of the silver surfer who can't use a tablet. The data from Interreg Europe shows that seniors are actually eager adopters of tech.
But there's a big caveat, isn't there? They'll adopt it if
the design is right. The problem usually isn't the user, it's the interface.
This reminds me of that Hungarian case study, PBN. They didn't just guess what seniors wanted.
No, they set up smart senior rooms and had over 1,000 citizens test the devices. And the feedback was illuminating. They found that seniors often handled the telemedicine tech better than the doctors did.
That's amazing.
Motivation was there. But if the font is tiny or the buttons are confusing, they'll just bounce off. It led to this concept of inclusive design.
Designing with them, not just for them.
Precisely. France is doing this really well. They have a facility called HIPA. It's a living lab.
Describe what a living lab is. I love this idea.
It's a fully equipped apartment, real kitchen, real bathroom. But it's instrumented with sensors, smart floors, the works. Companies can put their prototypes in there and have real older adults test them in a real-world setting.
You get feedback you just can't get in a boardroom.
Exactly. You realize really quickly that your smart hub is placed too high on the wall, or the voice recognition doesn't work well.
So if I'm a small business owner listening to this, what are the high-growth areas?
Interreg identified a few specifics. Housing renovation is huge, adapting existing homes so people can age in place.
So retrofitting bathrooms, widening doorways.
All of that. Then leisure and tourism, they have the time and the money. Transportation.
Sure.
And personalized nutrition.
That makes sense. But I want to pivot now. We've talked about the silver economy as customers, but what about as the workforce?
This is arguably the most important part of the equation if we want to capture that longevity dividend. We have to talk about older adults as workers, and yes, as founders.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate. This always comes up. If older people stay in the workforce longer, aren't they just blocking the path for young people, hogging the jobs?
It's a very common fear. In economics, it's known as the lump of labor fallacy.
Why is it a fallacy?
Because it assumes there's a fixed amount of work, a lump. But economies don't work like that. When an older person works, they earn money, they spend money, they create demand. That demand creates new jobs for younger people.
The pie gets bigger.
Exactly. Pushing older people out of the workforce actually shrinks the economy, which hurts everyone.
And the data suggests they aren't just holding jobs, they are creating them. There's a big rise in senior-led startups.
There is. And think about it. If you're 60, you have three things. A 22-year-old founder probably doesn't. Deep industry experience, a professional network, and access to capital, plus all the soft skills.
So if you're 60 and you're thinking about starting a business, the stats are actually in your favor.
You might be the safest bet in the room for an investor.
But for this to work at scale, the workplace itself has to adapt. You can't just expect a 65-year-old to work on a factory line designed for a 25-year-old.
True. And this is where we get into some cool tech. The CGTN source mentioned car companies are using exoskeletons.
Like Iron Man suits?
Essentially, yeah. Wearable robotics that support the lower back or shoulders. It neutralizes the physical disadvantage. But the bigger challenge isn't physical, it's structural.
Meaning how we structure retirement itself.
Right. We're stuck in this cliff edge model.
Yeah.
You work full throttle until one Friday at 65, and on Monday, you work 0 hours. It's jarring, and it's inefficient.
It's a binary switch, on or off.
We need a dimmer switch. Flexible retirement, phasing out, shifting from manager to mentor. We lose a massive amount of human capital because people drop out between 50 and 64, often because they can't find that middle ground.
And keeping them engaged isn't just about money, it's about health, right?
Right.
Brain health.
Yes. Scotland has this amazing initiative, the Healthy Aging Innovation Cluster. They treat brain health as a lifelong asset. Work, social engagement, problem solving, these are some of the best ways to protect the brain. Keeping people working is a public health strategy.
So we have the opportunity, we have the tech, but it's not all smooth sailing. There are some serious hurdles in these reports.
There are. And the biggest one is inequality. We said earlier that 70 is the new 53, but we have to be honest. That is not true for everyone. There's a massive gap in health span based on income and education.
Right. The sources were stark on this. In the US and UK, poorer populations spend way more years in bad health.
Exactly. The longevity dividend is currently a luxury good. If you've worked a grueling manual labor job, you might be physically worn out by 55.
So the economic boost only works if the baseline health of the whole population is lifted up.
Correct. The IMF makes a strong case that tackling childhood obesity is actually a silver economy strategy. You have to build that health capital early. You can't just flip a switch at 60.
And that connects to the policy lag. It feels like we're running a 2026 economy with 1926 regulations.
Our pension systems were designed a century ago. When they were introduced, the average life expectancy was often lower than the retirement age.
Wow.
The system was designed for people to work, retire, and then, frankly, die. Now we're looking at the 100-year life. The math just doesn't work anymore.
It's a global problem. I loved the idea from the World Economic Forum of a COP for aging.
Like the climate conferences.
Exactly, a global summit for longevity.
It's a brilliant idea. Every country is facing this, but many are solving it in a silo. We need to share what works, like Sweden's pension reforms or Japan's elder care insurance.
So let's bring it all home. If I'm listening to this, thinking about my career or my business, what is the main takeaway?
I mean, we have to fundamentally reframe our mindset. We have to stop looking at the silver economy as a niche problem to be managed. It is a driver of innovation. It's about AI, regenerative medicine, smart housing. It's a shift from managing decline to supporting vitality.
Supporting vitality. I like that. It's much more optimistic.
And I want to leave everyone with a final thought from Andrew Scott's book, The Longevity Imperative. He points out that we spent the 20th century inventing two new stages of life, teenagers and pensioners.
Huh. That's true. Those concepts didn't really exist before.
Right. And now, he says, we have to invent a whole new stage. Think about it. If you're 60 today, you might have 30 productive years left. That is an entire career. It's too long to just be an extended retirement.
30 years.
So the question is, are you planning for a 30-year vacation, which most of us can't afford and would probably get bored of, or are you planning for a 30-year reinvention?
That is a huge question to chew on. 30 years is a long time to just play golf.
It certainly is. And the businesses that help people with that reinvention through education, health, flexible work, those are the ones who are going to win the next decade.
Well, thank you for walking us through the future of aging. It is definitely looking a lot brighter and more dynamic than the old narrative suggested. And thank you to everyone listening to this deep dive into your own future. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap, SKU believers. You just experienced the power of AI-driven business insights with Pi and Piet 2.0. Real advice, artificial voices, unlimited potential. If today's episode sparked an idea, challenged your thinking, or gave you that breakthrough moment, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a fellow entrepreneur who needs to hear this. Got a burning business question? Want Pi and Piet to tackle your specific challenge? Head over to tuepodcast.net/askpi and submit your question right now. We'll dive deep into your issue and deliver the actionable strategies you need to get across the start line. Remember, SKU believers, the hurdles aren't in the way. The hurdles are the way. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep taking action, and we'll see you in the next episode. Hello, SKU believers. Let me ask you a real quick question. How many cups of coffee have you had today? 3, 5, 7? And let me guess, you've got a Red Bull in the other hand just in case, right? Yeah, I see you. Now, here's the truth bomb nobody wants to hear. You're not building a business. You're building a caffeine dependency. Listen, I get it. When you're grinding 12, 14, 16-hour days, you're building something from nothing. When you've got payroll to meet, investors to impress, and visions that won't wait. You need fuel. But what if I told you that the fuel that you're using is actually slowing you down? What if the very thing that you think is keeping you sharp is actually making you dull? Enter Rise Coffee. This isn't your grandma's mushroom tea. This isn't some hippie wellness trend. This is science meets performance. And here's what makes Rise different. Less than half the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee. But here's the kicker. You won't miss it. 6 organic powerhouse mushrooms, including cordyceps, what Olympic athletes use, and lion's mane, what Silicon Valley biohackers swear by. Sustained energy that doesn't spike and crash. We're talking smooth, clean power from morning to moonlight. Crystal clear focus without the jitters. Imagine closing the deal with calm, confident mind instead of the caffeine chaos. Gut health and immune support, because what's the point of building an empire if you're too sick to enjoy it? So here's the challenge to you. Stop borrowing energy from tomorrow. Stop running on fumes and call it a hustle. Stop wearing your caffeine addiction like a badge of honor. Real entrepreneurs optimize, real entrepreneurs adapt, real entrepreneurs win. You can't win if you're crashing at 2 p.m. while your competition is just getting started. Break the cycle. Head to risesuperfoods.com right now and use code PODNA15 for 50% off your first order. That's PODNA15 for 15% off. Try it for 30 days. If you don't feel the difference, if you don't feel sharper, calmer, more focused, more alive, then go back to your 6-a-day cup habit. But I'm telling you, we won't, because once you feel what real energy feels like, you'll never go back. Ditch the addiction. Fuel your empire and rise up. Rise Coffee, energy that builds, not burns.